Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today and happy Earth Month. I'm Matt Spadoni and I work for a local NGO called CommUniverCity, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of our programs under the Growing Sustainably program that I work on, and that program is called Watershed in a Box. And if you've been following some of the other Office of Sustainability presentations this month, a lot of them are focused on climate change and how that's affecting our non-human and human communities in the area. And our Watershed in a Box program is along the same lines and focuses on our very own Coyote Creek. And we have a lot of material that's designed for elementary children, but I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of that today with you. Thank you.
CommUniverCity is a three-sector partnership between the Central San Jose neighborhoods in District 3, San Jose State University, and the City of San Jose. We work with the downtown community to identify what struggles the community is facing and what problems they want addressed. We look within the community for partners to work with, as well as expertise from SJSU faculty and students and folks within the city who can help address these needs. These are some of CommUniverCity's partners that we work with. In CommUniverCity, I work under the Growing Sustainably program, which primarily partners with elementary schools and other nonprofits that work with children. We focus on the community-identified needs of health and diet education through our Cooking Matters program, garden education and food sovereignty with our school gardens, other types of environmental education that focus on improving environmental literacy and fostering safe and engaging spaces in the community where kids live, work, and play. And lastly, we aim to create a college-going culture by training SJSU students to teach all of these lessons with the elementary children. This unique partnership of putting college student teachers with the elementary schools creates a fun atmosphere for both partners to learn from one another. This partnership is especially important during COVID-19, where it is difficult to make connections with people outside of your family. The Watershed in a Box lessons fall under our environmental education programming. Place-based learning is a leading concept in our environmental education materials, and our Watershed in a Box program is a great example of this concept in action. The program lessons were developed by a collaboration of local community partners, including CommUniverCity, SDSU students, Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful, Valley Water, and the Open Space Authority. And the content is focused specifically on Coyote Creek, which runs right through San Jose and runs less than a mile from over a dozen San Jose schools. These lessons were originally developed to be taught in person by SJSU students to elementary school students. Each of the 5 lessons had a teaching and student engaged portion, followed by a student activity that was usually done in groups. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have converted these lessons into versions that can be taught virtually over Zoom. And we created activities that could be done individually with simple things that every child has at home, like pen and paper, or a glass of water, or virtual activities like this board game. Another example of our lessons is our flood preparedness lesson called Be Prepared. Flood preparedness is an important concept for the downtown community, especially for families living close to Coyote Creek. Flooding in the Coyote Creek watershed has been increasing over the past 100 years, as human alterations to the creek and climate change have worked together to create more flood-prone areas. Most recently, Coyote Creek breached its banks in 2017, displacing thousands of residents in San Jose and causing millions of dollars of damage. The flood even caused several schools to temporarily close, and Olinder Elementary was flooded with 3 to 8 feet of water. This Watershed in a Box lesson is geared at teaching our students how to be a leader in their household. We teach our students to encourage their family to create emergency evacuation plans, have a ready-to-go emergency bag, and to know the risks of flooding in their neighborhood and what they should do if they find themselves in a flood. During COVID, we have facilitated this lesson to elementary students through Zoom Live, as well as created YouTube videos for families to watch and handed out over 150 flood prep kits to families, which were donated by Valley Water. Another one of our programs is called The River Runs Through It and deals with urban sprawl and the effects that our communities have on the living and non-living environment of the Coyote Creek watershed. A watershed is made up of more than just the creek itself, and actually includes all of the land that collects water into a certain creek, stream, or body of water. Imagine you are here on this boat in the south of the bay, and you are looking south and you see where Coyote Creek and the bay meet each other. And here is San Jose, with a population of over 1 million people. And all the way in the back here are the headwaters of Coyote Creek and the Henrico State Park. All of the areas surrounded in yellow, this is the Coyote Creek watershed. Everything that happens in this yellow area ends up affecting Coyote Creek because when it rains, the water moves nutrients or pollution or garbage towards or into Coyote Creek and eventually to the bay. In Santa Clara County, the Coyote Creek watershed is our largest and has changed significantly over the past couple hundred years. In this lesson, students learn about the history of our landscapes from the times before colonization to the present, and about urban sprawl, and how things like urbanization can cause problems like runoff and pollution for our communities and our rivers. One major impact of urban sprawl on our watershed has been the replacement of natural landscapes with man-made impervious surfaces. But we also talk with them about how so many people are working on fixing these issues and how they can be part of the solution as well by not littering or joining creek cleanups and by adding or taking care of their green spaces to reduce the harmful effects of rain runoff from impervious surfaces. And lastly, by staying in school and maybe someday being a part of the workforce dedicated to finding and creating solutions. For this lesson, we also created a video of us conducting a science experiment by showing the students the difference when we pour a large amount of water on different pervious or impervious surfaces. We then teach the students how to do their own science experiment and encourage them to try the experiment out on their own and bring a family member or friend with them to see the difference for themselves. The last watershed in a box lesson I will tell you about is our lesson on climate change. Due to COVID-19, or just like COVID-19, climate change is affecting us here in San Jose right now, but it is a complex issue and one that's difficult for adults to understand, let alone our younger students. For this reason, we again employ our place-based learning techniques, and the lesson on climate change is taught through the lens of their familiar neighborhood, Coyote Creek. By teaching it through the scope of its effects on the wildlife in Coyote Creek, we are then more easily able to translate that to ways that we as humans in our communities are also affected. During COVID-19, this lesson has been converted into a Kahoot that children play along with their classmates and learn climate concepts and solutions in between each of the questions. For many students, just being introduced to these topics and gaining some environmental literacy so that they are able to discuss or bring up these topics at home or with their friends is a huge first step towards positive change. Climate solutions start with communities like ours coming together and supporting each other. And yes, the seas are rising, but with each conversation we have with one another, so are we.
Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to CommUniverCity's talk. And if you want to learn more about CommUniverCity, you can go to cucsj.org. And we actually do have some open positions under the Growing Sustainably program, as well as other positions at CommUniverCity. And thank you once again. Happy Earth Month. And I'll leave you with some advice I give to my elementary students. A lot of times when we're talking about climate change and pollution, it can seem scary or flooding, but most of the time the environment around us is a calm, beautiful place to be. And so I encourage you all to go out and enjoy it, and yeah, enjoy the great weather. Thank you. Bye.